What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with John, talking Steelers football. I'm your host, John, and I am excited about today's episode as we are going to indulge into building the offseason roster for the Steelers, in my opinion. Yeah, the offseason is, for me, it's the best part of the year. I love the offseason. I love the team building that they have to go through in order to get the roster together through free agency, the draft, trades, all that kind of stuff, man. I love it. If I wasn't in the field that I'm in now in terms of work, I probably would have went to school for like sports management, so I could be like a GM or scout or something like that, a front office person for a football team. But I love that team building thing. That's why when I play Madden, that's pretty much what I do. I just build the team and then let it simulate. But anyway, I'm gonna build the Steelers team for us tonight because the offseason is right around the corner. Let's get ready to start. The free agency and the trades and the transactions all become official tomorrow at noon. So the new league year is getting ready to start. So what we want to do is before the new league year starts, before the legal tampering period starts and free agents start agreeing to terms or whatever, we want to make sure that we go ahead and put our 2 cents in on what the Steelers should do, what they could do, what they look like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to share with you what free agents the Steelers have, who they should keep, who they should let go. Look at the free agency market in the NFL and see what free agents they might be able to pick up that help the team, and then we'll do a mock draft. Now, mind you, the Steelers have 12 draft picks for this draft. I'm not doing all 12. I'm just going to do the first 3 rounds, and I think they had 5 in the first 3 rounds. So I'm going to do 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. I'll share them with you, and we'll set the team up for another successful Super Bowl run. All right. So let's get it started. First thing we want to do is we want to acknowledge the fact that the Steelers did hire a new head coach. Mike Tomlin resigned after 19 years of being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people say that he's going on to have a Hall of Fame career. I don't know if he'll get in the Hall of Fame or not. I do know he had 19 straight years of non-losing seasons where he was 500 or better. He is 1-1 in the Super Bowl. He won one, he lost one, and his greatest asset to the Pittsburgh Steelers was, to me, the mentoring and the development of young men, trying to help them and develop them and being a mentor to them. I think was his greatest contribution to the coaching ranks. So he decided to resign because in his own words, he couldn't get them over the hump because hasn't won a playoff game in over 10 years. Last year, they got ousted out of the playoffs in the first round with a convincing loss like they have in the previous years. They got beat pretty bad by Houston. And after that next day, he resigned. And the Steelers hired Mike McCarthy to be the new head coach. He is a Yinzer. He's from Pittsburgh, grew up in Greenfield, right across the river from the Steelers headquarters. Mike McCarthy also could be considered a Hall of Fame coach if he had retired. Mike McCarthy started off coaching the Green Bay Packers. He won a Super Bowl against Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin in 2011. He has coached the Green Bay Packers. He's coached the Dallas Cowboys, where he led them to 6 straight years of going to the playoffs. 3 years in a row, they was 12-4. And then he now is coaching his hometown team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's excited about it at his press conference. He shed a tear too. His family lives here, his parents live here. And so he's excited about the opportunity to come home and coach the Pittsburgh Steelers, and so are we. We're excited about that too. Mike McCarthy is a breath of fresh air. He's different than what they've become accustomed to. They typically would go after a young, defensive-minded coach. He's an older, offensive-minded coach. And so, it's good to change up sometimes. They ain't got to stick with the same thing over and over. I know they've been successful for 50 years doing it, but hey, nothing wrong with changing up. Times change. He is the new head coach, and he came in right away, put together his new coaching staff. Now, I'm gonna share names with y'all who the coaching staff was. I can't share any photos or pictures or anything like that due to legal reasons. So go to my page on Facebook, Huddle Up with John's Talking Steelers Football, and you'll be able to see the pictures there. I can't put them in this live, but in this post, but I can put them on my Facebook page. So I'll give you the pictures of names of the coaches. I'll also give you the names of their free agents, and I'll also give you the names of the draft picks that we take. All right. All right. So first things first, McCarthy put together his head coaching staff. He started off hiring his offensive staff was led by offensive coordinator Brian Angelino, who comes from Minnesota, coached with McCarthy back in Dallas, and he was coaching in Minnesota as their passing game coordinator. Gets him to be the offensive coordinator. He kept Tom Arth as the quarterback's coach. Tom Arth was the quarterback's coach under Tomlin's regime, and he worked with that quarterback room with Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, and Will Howard. And plus, he worked with McCarthy in the past. So McCarthy kept him on. James Campen was the offensive line coach. He was the offensive line coach with McCarthy in Green Bay in all those years that they were together. He hired Jahari Evans, who is the assistant offensive line coach. Jahari Evans is a possible future Hall of Famer, played guard for the New Orleans Saints. Was there when McCarthy used to be an assistant coach with New Orleans Saints. He brought him on. I think that's going to be that's one of the best hires I think that they got. That's going to be good for that offensive line. All those offensive line guys we got for the Steelers are young dudes. They may get rid of Isaac Seumalo at left guard and plug in a younger guy. So you'll have 5 young dudes on that line. It'd be really helpful, beneficial to have somebody like Jahari Evans, who was an all-pro and a possible Hall of Famer, being their coach to help them to grow and develop. So great hire by McCarthy to do that. He hired Ramon Young as the running backs coach. He coached with him in Dallas. Adam Henry is the wide receivers coach. He coached with him in Dallas as well. Robert Kugler, who is the son of Steelers' former offensive line coach Sean Kugler, hired him to be his tight end coach. Frank Signetti is the senior offensive assistant. Tim Bernovich is the game management coach. Y'all, they hired a game management coach. That's important because McCarthy, like I said, is an offensive-minded coach, and he's already stated that he is going to call plays on Sundays for the offense. So while he's calling plays, it's important to have somebody who'll be able to help manage the game for him, like clock management, like using challenge flags and stuff like that. So great hire by him to get somebody to help him and realize that, he don't have to do it all by himself. And then he hired Eric Simonelli, who is the offensive quality control coach. All right. On defense, he hired Patrick Graham to be his defensive coordinator. Patrick Graham worked with him in Green Bay, worked with him in Dallas. And recently, Patrick Graham was the defensive coordinator for Las Vegas Raiders last year. Every coach that they had the last couple of years kept him on as a defensive coordinator because, the great job that he was doing with not as much talent, unfortunately. But here he has a lot of talent to work with. Defense is stacked still with a lot of players. So hopefully he can get the best out of them and work with them and get us back to the level of defense that we've been accustomed to over the last, couple of decades. All right, so McCarthy hired Joe Witt Jr. to be his assistant head coach to help him in his head coaching duties, while also Joe Witt Jr. will also help coach the secondary. He just recently was coaching for the Washington Commanders, was with McCarthy in his previous days with the Packers. And then he hired a defensive pass game coordinator and another defensive back coach is Jason Simmons. Some of you may know Jason Simmons is. Remember him. He used to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He played for the Steelers in the Cowher era. Cowher drafted him 5th round. Forget what college he went to, but he was a DB, number 23. Jason Simmons played for Cowher, and since then he's been coaching. He coached the Raiders, and just recently he was coaching the Commanders as well. But he's coming back to Pittsburgh to be the defensive backs coach. This next hire, y'all, was really, really shocking, but it should be good nonetheless. But he hired D'Amato Pico as the defensive line coach. For those who don't know who he is, D'Amato Pico used to be a defensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals. A big Hawaiian-looking guy with a ponytail, had a big old ponytail hanging out of his helmet. Used to wreak havoc on the offensive line. But nonetheless, man, he's now a Pittsburgh Steeler. He got out of Bungle Land, and now he's a Pittsburgh Steeler coach. And he's going to coach the D-line. Then McCarthy went through the through the college ranks rather, and hire some young dudes from college, which I was pleased to see that he has a diverse coaching staff. Older guys, younger guys, new ideas, older ideas, blend all that together. But anyway, he hired C.J. Ahayu, who was the outside linebackers coach at Texas Tech. And when I hear he's responsible for that young boy coming out of college from Texas Tech's edge rusher, who should be a top 10 pick. He had a hand in his development. He rehired Scott McCurley. Scott McCurley was the inside linebackers coach for us last year, but he worked with McCarthy in the past for Dallas, and so he kept him on. He hired Sean Howell as defensive assistant and Pat Riley as defensive assistant as well. And then he also hired for special teams Danny Crossman. He was the special teams coach for the Miami Dolphins last year, and he hired an assistant special teams coach by the name of Darius Swinton II. His strength and conditioning coaches, I don't know these guys. I never heard of them. But what I understand is that he brought some of them from Dallas and from Green Bay. But the head strength and coach is Mark Levitt. The director of performance integration and sports medicine is Grant Thorne. The strength and conditioning assistant is Justin Gallick, and the strength and conditioning assistant is Abe Manera. And then he hires Steve Scarnucci. Steve Scarnucci is going to be what they call the chief of staff. I ain't never heard of that before in the NFL. As I looked it up, I did see that there are some teams who do have that. And basically, what the chief of staff does is the same thing any other chief of staff does. Is he's the chief of the staff. He's the one who handles the staff. And so that's the coaching staff for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the 2026 season, led by, again, head coach Mike McCarthy. And so we're excited about that. All right, let's get right to it, y'all. Let's look at what we're going to do here in free agency. And the Steelers have almost like 24 free agents that they have are available for free agency. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down in alphabetical order. I'm going to go in alphabetical order and just talk about those who I'm going to keep and who I would let go. All right, we're going to do that. Who we going to keep and who we would let go. So starting with, and I'm just gonna go offense defense because they're in alphabetical order. So offense, it'll be offense, defense, or whoever's up. We'll do it that way. How about that? All right. So the first name on the list is Calvin Austin, the wide receiver. If it was me, I would keep Calvin Austin if we can get him on a nice cheap deal. He may get the bag. I don't know. He was hurt a little bit last year, but when he did play, he was productive. He led them in touchdowns. I think he had 7 touchdowns. He had a big touchdown catch against the Ravens of the game that they won the division, where he shook the mess out of that corner with a stop and go route and was wide open down the sideline for a touchdown. So, I mean, if Calvin Austin is going to get the bag, I wouldn't give it to him. I'm not giving him no $15, $20 million a year contract that some of these guys is getting could get in, as a wide receiver. But if he's reasonable at around $4 or $5 million a year, a 2-year deal for $10 million, I'd definitely sign him for something like that. He's worth it. He could be your 3rd or 4th wide receiver or your gadget wide receiver and your punt returner. He got those burners, man. He's 4.27 speed. So, if I can get him on cheap like that, then definitely. So I would keep Calvin Austin if I can get him on cheap. If I can't, then you let him go. Let him go make his money somewhere else where he can be, a bigger prime target. The second player on the list is Chuck Clark, safety Chuck Clark. He's a veteran. He played really well last year. When he had a chance to play, when he came in, that he's either a big nickel or he was the, 3rd safety in some of those packages that they was playing. Chuck Clark played really well. He was in the right place a lot at the right time. I wish he would have caught some of them balls. If he had caught some of them balls that he had got his hands on, he probably would have had 5, 6 picks, from last year. But if we can get him on a 1-year vet minimum deal again, then by all means, bring him back. I would bring him back. Next is guard tackle Jake Driscoll. I think they depending on what they do in the draft, they might sign him come training camp to a minimum deal. Next one is Kyle Duggar. We got Kyle Duggar last year in the in a trade with New England when Deshaun Elliott went out. Safety Deshaun Elliott went out. He came in, he played pretty well to start, but then kind of waned going down the stretch towards the end of the year. Didn't play as well. Wasn't in the right place. Was getting burnt. Things like that. I would let him go. He made a lot of money last year. I think he made like $17 million. There's no way we're signing him back for that. And we don't need him anyway. Deshaun Elliott will be back. He's healthy. I've just seen videos of him, running and things like that. So Deshaun Elliott should be cool. Next one is Daniel Ikula. He got hurt. He may still be hurt. If he's healthy, I would sign him to a minimum deal, just a vet minimum deal. He played really well too as a backup nose tackle to Keanu Benton. And so, that depth on that defensive line, is important, especially when you talk about stopping the run and, things like that. So if he's healthy, I would sign him. If he's not healthy, then, they could find somebody else to be the backup nose tackle, either in the draft or maybe some other free agent who's already healthy. Next is Kenneth Gainwell, running back Kenneth Gainwell. Now, him again, I feel like, just like with Calvin Austin, I would love for Gainwell to be back. He was our MVP. He had 1,000 yards, all-purpose yards. Man, he had the greatest catch I've ever seen. Maybe the second greatest catch in terms of acrobatics in Steeler history, next to the immaculate reception. That touchdown he caught against the Lions, I think it was. Man, that touchdown was amazing. But anyway, Gainwell, he could do it all, man. He could catch the ball. He can run. He's fast. He's 4.3 speed. He can run routes. He can block. He led us in receptions with 82. He's going to get that bag, y'all. I just don't see the Steelers being able to afford to keep him. And that's okay. Like let him go. Aaron Rodgers said he wanted to make him some money. I think he's gonna make that boy some money. He's gonna get a big offer from somebody. And if so, he deserves it. You know, he did what he's supposed to do for us. He deserves it. Now, if he don't, somehow or another, he can get we can get him at 5 million or less than what they paying Jalen Warren. Then by all means, try to bring him back. But yeah, I just don't see it. Next is tight end Connor Hay. Uh, again, he's another one. You know, if he can find somewhere to go and make money, then by all means, I doubt it because he hasn't done anything really that would warrant him getting a big contract. But I would wait and see. You know, give him a chance to explore the market and then sign him back to something reasonable. He's a core special teams guy. We need him on special teams, and he's our third tight end, and maybe he might get some more throws to him with McCarthy as the head coach and offensive coordinator than last year. But I wouldn't give him nothing more than maybe $1.5 million, $2 million a year. On like a 2-year deal or something to that effect, something minimal. Next is special teamer, strong safety, Miles Killebrew. Miles is gone. They might as well let him go. He got hurt really bad. But he's in his 30s, man. There's no, and they can't keep paying him. They can't pay him $2-3 million just to be a special teamer. That's all he's really been. He's had no significant contribution on defense. Really, so it's time to let Miles Killebrew go. Thank you for the time that you spent here. Thank you for he was a great special teams dude. He had maybe one of the greatest special teams years, like 2 years ago, of anybody. We appreciate that, but it's time to move on from Miles. Too much, he's too much money for us. Next is defensive tackle Isaiah Loudermilk, fifth-round draft pick from Wisconsin. Hasn't done nothing in the years that he's been here. He's just been a backup, sometimes not even dressing. Time to let him go. Let's move on. Defensive tackle Dean Lowry, time to move on from him. Next is wide receiver Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller's a vet. He may be something like you might want to pick up later on, close to training camp if there's an injury or something like that, or if you just need some depth. We might want to pick up Scotty on a veteran minimum. If not, I say turn that wide receiver room all up, or turn it over, and get all new guys in there who's going to play according to McCarthy's system. All right. Next is tight end Donald Parham. He's gone. He'll be out of there. Next is guard Andrews Pete. He did really, really well filling in for Isaac Seumalo when he got hurt at left guard, and then he filled in for Broderick Jones at left tackle when he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and he couldn't play. But he did really well. He came to us from the Saints. They signed him to a 1-year contract from the Saints, and I was really pleased with him. I would re-sign him and give him an opportunity possibly to challenge for a starting spot on that offensive line until, maybe, somebody else can take it from him or whatever. So yeah, I would re-sign him. Next is Jabril Peppers. Jabril Peppers. Now he's who I would sign to replace Miles Killebrew as the special teams captain. Jabril Peppers actually took his place as the gunner. I mean, not as the gunner, but as the up man on punt kick. He was the captain, and Jabril Peppers is good on special teams. If they needed to, they can actually have him return punts and kicks. He did that I think he played for Michigan, and he did that for Cleveland when they drafted him. But Jabril, to me, is worth re-signing because he has defensive contribution that he can make. He can play strong safety. He can play free safety, and play in the box and do well. He did well when he played against New England this year. He was the starter in place of Deshaun Elliott, I think it was. Yeah, this place of Deshaun Elliott, and he played really well. He had a really good game. So I would sign Jabril Peppers back if they could, get him to a nice contract where they can, use him as special teams, but also him be an extra safety. Him and Chuck Clark are two safeties that I would re-sign to add depth to that secondary. All right, moving on. Again, I told you they got 25 guys. I'm trying to hurry up through them. Quarterback, James Pierre. James Pierre balled out this past year. He's been a journeyman. He's been a special teams guy, but he got a chance to play corner, and he played it well. I suspect, based off of Josina Anderson, said that he has like 8, 9 teams that might be interested in him. I suspect that he ain't coming back to Pittsburgh. He got 8 or 9 teams that's looking at him already, and then even the free agency ain't even started yet. Tampa season ain't even started yet. If he got that many teams looking at him, then it's possible he's gone. And if I'm the Steelers, let him go. Let him get to the bag, make some money. I would suspect that the teams that want him are probably teams that are coached by people that he used to coach. So I'm thinking like the Raiders, the Commanders, the Vikings. The Vikings would really be interesting because the DB coach that we had last year, Alexander, went to Minnesota to be their DB coach with Brian Flores. So that look for them to look at him as well. So yeah, James Pierre is probably going to go somewhere else. Next is quarterback Aaron Rodgers. It is my opinion that they need to re-sign Aaron Rodgers. There's no quarterback in free agency or in the draft that is going to give you what a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers is going to give you. And that's saying a lot because he's 42, but he still has the arm strength. He still has the accuracy. No, he got the brains. He still has the ability, I think, to lead this team to where they ultimately want to go. He's the only, I'm not saying only, he's the best option, I think, that is out there to lead them to where they want to go, which is a Super Bowl. There's nobody else out there as I scour the free agency market, the trade, even the trade market. Like if they wanted to do a trade, there's nobody that I see trade wise that they can trade that is reasonable, a reasonable expectation that they could trade to to get them to where they want to go. So if I'm the Steelers, I'm putting my eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket one more time to be our quarterback. And hopefully, if they draft somebody, he can help mentor them. He can help mentor Will Howard. He can help mentor Mason Rudolph. I mean, or they don't need to mentor him, but he can help mentor some of these young guys if they draft one and Will Howard, so that they can, just learn from him. Man. To me, he's the GOAT. To me, not the greatest quarterback of all time. He's the greatest quarterback talent of all time for me. I think he has the best arm in terms of strength and accuracy of anybody that's ever played the game. That's my opinion with Aaron Rodgers. So he's on our team. Hopefully we can sign him back. Next is center guard Max Sherping. If they need to, they can always sign him later for some depth. Next is left guard Isaiah Malu. As I said, Malu is 32 years old. We need to stop giving guys over 30 big contracts. And he played well last year, according to like these statistics from PFF and places like that. So somebody is going to offer him big money. Still should not match it. They should let him go. He's 32. Let him go. Let him go find a big contract to end his career. We go find somebody younger and cheaper to play left guard. Quarterback Skylar Thompson's next. Let him go. He got into that trouble out in Ireland, doing dumb stuff. But anyway, no, they need to draft somebody to be the fourth quarterback, to fight it out with Will Howard, to see if they can, who could be a 3 or who could be a 2. Skylar Thompson's not that dude. He's, they didn't let him go. And then wide receiver Marcus Valdez-Scantling, they may re-sign him. He played in the Green Bay system with Favre, of course, so he knows the West Coast offense, but I think they might not sign him till later so they can see, what they can get in either draft or a trade market or free agency. If they can fill their room that way, then that's the way you should do it. But if not, if something fall through, then maybe you go and get Marquez Valdez-Scantling and bring him back to add depth to this team wide receiver room. All right, they got a couple. Other free agents. One is Corey Holcomb, linebacker. I really would like to see them resign him. Corey Holcomb had a gruesome injury a couple years ago, but he worked his way back, got himself strong. I actually think he's better than Patrick Queen. He was playing really well before he had that gruesome injury, and it wasn't even his fault. Keanu Neal, our safety back then, leg whipped him and bent his knee backwards, so that wasn't his fault, but he was playing really well. He was playing all pro level as the green dot middle linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers before he got injured. And it was his injury, and because he was out so long, that caused the Steelers the next year to go and sign Patrick Queen in free agency. And to me, he just hasn't worked out. I'm not a fan of Patrick Queen. I know he's fast, but in terms of like filling run gaps and in terms of making plays, he misses too many tackles to be the middle linebacker. I'm just not a fan of his at all. But I don't know whether they're gonna keep him or not. But I would sign Corey Holcomb back to the roster and keep him. And then finally, a corner Asante Samuel Jr. I would definitely sign him back. If you're going to lose Pierre, then you got to sign Asante Samuel back so you can have some young depth at corner. You got Joey Porter Jr. and you got Brandon Echols. That's all you got right now at corner. So you got to sign Samuel back if you're not going to get Pierre back. I would love to see that. He did really well when he filled in last year. He came back from his spinal fusion injury. He was healthy. He played well. He had a couple picks. Yeah, give him a 1-year prove-it deal or a 2-year prove-it deal, and let him prove himself and see what he got. So I would sign Asante Samuel back. All right. They got a couple restricted free agents that they probably won't tender. Just invite them to training camp, which would be Izizu Atamuwa. He played really well too. I would actually, offer him like a 1-year deal or 2-year deal or something like that. He's a defensive lineman. He's number 73. He played really well. Not 73. What is he? 93. He played really well towards the end of the year when he had a chance to play. Ryan McCollum is another one. I will offer him a 1 or 2-year deal. He was really solid as a backup center for Zach Frazier when he got a chance to play. He did well. Jeremiah Moon, the outside linebacker, he's been back and forth on the practice squad, in and out. He's a good special teams guy. So we'll see. Right in the camp, see what he can do. If he make the team, make the team. If he don't, he don't. And then the punter is Corliss Waiting. He's a restricted free agent as well. I don't know whether they want to sign him or not. They may not. I don't know. They might want to see if they can upgrade the punter situation. There's some good ones out there. That Tommy Townsend dude is a free agent. If I'm Steelers, that's who I'm going after. Forget Waitman. Let's go find Tommy Townsend. So those are my picks for the Steelers to re-sign their own free agents. I think that would get them off to on the right foot, in terms of free agency, signing those guys back and getting them into the fold. And they got money to do it. They got close to $50 million. They cut Jonnu Smith, the tight end. That saved them $7 million against the cap. They already had like 40-something million, based off of the cap rising this year under the collective bargaining agreement. So they got close to $50 million now. And they also have the ability, if they need to, they can always do some readjustments or rearrangements with TJ Watt, with DK Metcalf's contract, Pat Frymuth's contract, even I think Jalen Ramsey. Some of those guys they can renegotiate or construct their contract to get them some cap space if they need to. But I doubt the Steelers is going to go into free agency and spend close to $50 million. They ain't going to do that. They ain't never did that. So at any rate, they're just saying that they got wiggle room. They got wiggle room to do some things. And so let's go to free agency. Let's see what's out there that they can, who's out there they can sign that will help this team right away. We already said we already got a quarterback, right? But we're gonna lose at running back. If we're gonna lose Kenneth Gainwell, then I would like to see the Steelers go out, and the draft is not big on running back this year like it was last year. We did draft Caleb Johnson last year, but I'm not sure where he stands with this team and with Mike McCarthy's system. I know he ran a wide zone scheme, and that worked well last year with Arthur Smith. He had some bright spots last year running the ball when he got a chance, but I don't know what kind of scheme Mike McCarthy's run game is. I don't know. I have to look that up and investigate that some more. But we don't want to go into the season, just totally dependent on that. If I'm the Steelers, I'm going to, look at the free agency to see if I can replace Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell was that third down back. But here's the thing, they have some flexibility because they can either look at a third down back in free agency if there's one out there, but if they don't see one out there, they can also look at a featured back because Jaylen Warren is capable of being a third down back. That's what he was to Najee Harris, right? As a matter of fact, he's probably better than Kenneth Gainwell was because he's one heck of a blocker. That's where he got his name, and that's where he made a name for himself was the backs on backers, and stifling them linebackers who was coming in on blitzes and stuff. So they can look either way. Do I get a runner or do I get a third down back? And there's some names that I think that they should look at. If they're gonna get a runner, two names come to mind. One is Brian Robinson, who plays for the 49ers. He's a big back. He's young. He's 26. He used to play for Carolina, I believe. Carolina. Man, who did Brian Robinson play for? I forget who he played for. It slipped my mind that quick. But he went to San Fran to play for them, and thought he was going to have a chance to get some burn or whatever. But McCaffrey actually stayed healthy, so he didn't get much. He's a free agent, and he's a good runner. He's a downhill runner, somebody that they can use as a running back. So I would look at him. I would also look at Rico Dowd, who plays for Carolina. He's had 1,000-yard season in like the last 2-3 years in a row. He used to play under Coach Mike McCarthy in Dallas. I think McCarthy drafted him actually, and so he would be a nice pickup. He's another in between the tackle runner. He burnt us, man, when we played Dallas. He killed us that game. But he would be a nice pickup for them, and he knows the system because he played with McCarthy. So him and Robinson, and then if you're looking at like third down backs, I would say the Ravens released Keaton Mitchell, who that boy is fast, number 24 for the Ravens. He's really really fast. Third down back, he could catch. I remember I think one time we played the Ravens maybe 2-3 years ago, and he caught a screen for like 75 yards for a touchdown, something like that, flying, man. So he would be something that somebody they can look at and, stick it to Baltimore. Y'all gave up on him, we'll take it, But definitely look at. I think they should definitely look at him as like a third down back. And then the other guy that I would look at as a third down back would be like Antonio Gibson, who plays for the New England Patriots. Used to play. I think he got drafted in the 4th round by the Washington Commanders and left and went to to the Patriots. But he's a free agent too. But he's more that third down back, sort of in the same mold as Gainwell, same size, speed, can catch out the backfield, things like that. So those are a couple guys that they can look at the running back spot to see if they want to sign one of those guys to replace Gainwell. And another position they need to fill, and this is the biggest one, is wide receiver. Again, right now, only wide receivers they have on their team right now is DK Metcalf and Ben Skoranek. Nobody else. So they have to redo this wide receiver room. They need to sign somebody, maybe trade for somebody, and they need to draft. The draft is loaded with wide receivers this year. So maybe get at least 2, one early round and one late round, so they can get this wide receiver room up. So here's a couple of wide receivers that I would, if I'm the Steelers, I would go into free agency trying to sign. One is Jawan Jennings, wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers. He's an all good wide receiver. He can block, he can catch, he can run routes. He's big. From what I understand, McCarthy offense likes big wide receivers, 6'2" and up, who can block. He's just that. He's all of that. And he can play all the positions, slot, out, ZX. Jawan Jennings will be a nice pickup in free agency if they can get him, if they can come to agreement on some terms. He's a free agent, so, they can try to sign him. Another big wide receiver that I would like for them to go after, they might have to spend some dough to get him, but man, it would be worth it. Alec Pierce from the Colts. Alec Pierce was drafted by the Colts from Cincinnati. Big dude, 6'4", 6'5", 4.4 speed. Always making plays. Y'all remember we played the Colts. He was killing us. Him and Michael Pittman Jr., both of them 2 big dudes. That's what we would have, like 2 big dudes. Alec Pierce and DK Metcalf, both 6'4", 4.4 speed. Well, DK's a little bit faster than that. DK like 4.3 speed. But man, that would be a nice pickup. But they would have to spend some money to get him, maybe 25, 30 million a year. But hey, it's worth it, man. If you got 2 big dudes, who can stretch the field. And then here's the thing: he's not a wide receiver 2. He's more like a wide receiver 1B. So if, God forbid, anything ever happened to DK, he went down, got hurt, got another suspension, something like that, you're not missing nothing, because Pierce can be a 1A and step right into that role. So, those are 2 guys that I would look for them to sign in free agency. I look through this whole list. I mean, there's some other big name guys, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuels, people like that. But man, Alec Pierce is young. Juwan Jennings, he's young. He's 27 years old. Those 2 guys are the 2 big free agents that I would look for them to try to sign a free agency. And there's some lower end guys that they should look at just to kind of fill the room, would be like Sky Moore. He's from Pittsburgh. He's with the 49ers. He was drafted by the Chiefs. I think he went to Woodland Hills. Yeah, he went to Woodland Hills, but he got drafted by the Chiefs, and then he went out to San Francisco. I would look to him mainly because he's quick. He can run routes and stuff like that. He can do gadget plays, but he also can return kicks and punts. So if you don't sign Calvin Austin Jr., Calvin Austin the third back, Sky Moore might be somebody you want to look at. Tutu Atwell, another guy in that same Calvin Austin mode, short guy, fast, return kicks, punts, and stuff like that. So those are some guys that I would look to at free agency, but definitely they need to go hard in free agency after wide receiver. And then they maybe look at a trade, or maybe, definitely got to draft a couple guys. All right. So that's that for the offense. I would leave that line alone. If you lose Isaiah Malu, then you just plug Calvin Anderson rather, as your left guard, and maybe sign Andreas Pete for them to compete, or draft a guard to compete with Calvin Anderson. I keep calling him Calvin Austin. Calvin Anderson. His name ain't even Calvin Anderson. That's why I keep missing. His name is Spencer Anderson. Spencer Anderson, number 74, the six lineman dude. Spencer Anderson is the guy who should be plugged in at left guard right now until they either sign a free agent or they draft somebody. All right. So on defense, the only thing that I would really want them to look at in terms of like the first day of free agency is corner. Again, you ain't got nobody at corner except for Joey Porter Jr. right now. Joey Porter Jr. and Brandon Echols. You don't know whether you'll get Pierre or Samuel back. So right now you only got 2 guys. So I would look at corner as a need to get in free agency on the first day. And a couple guys that they should look at, I think is one is Eric Stokes. He was a corner for the Las Vegas Raiders, played for Patrick Graham. He knows the system. He played really well. Uh, had good numbers in that system. That would be something if I was them, I would look at. And then two would be Reek Woolen, big old corner from the Seattle Seahawks. 6'4", 200 pounds, 4.3 speed. The guy's fast, he's big, he's physical. Man, I mean, you imagine him and Joey Porter, two big dudes on the outside, just beating guys up. And they can compete with the division, because we need to be able to compete with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Both of them dudes, Jamar Chase 6'2", T. Higgins 6'4". We need to be able to compete with those guys with our corners. And so, getting two big dudes would be really, really big for them. If they can woo into the AFC North and Pittsburgh Steelers, man, that would be a great addition to that secondary. But corner is another thing that they got to do, like wide receiver. They got to sign a free agent, and they need to draft them as well, so they can stockpile those rooms. The other thing I would say on defense that they should address is defensive line. If somehow another Cam Hayward decides that he wants to retire, then they really need to go after a defensive lineman. And there's a couple guys that they can sign that were cut from their teams, and they can sign them, and it wouldn't affect their compensatory formula. Like the two guys that I thought they should have went after last year that got cut from their teams, but Minnesota signed both of them. Which one? Javon Hargrave, who used to be a Steeler. He was drafted by the Steelers. And then Jonathan Allen, who used to play for the Washington Commanders, but signed with the Minnesota Vikings last year. The Minnesota cut both of those guys, and both of those guys are available. So if Cam is not coming back, they need to look at one of those guys at defense on the defensive line to come in and help. And they also need to look at somebody who could be a backup nose tackle or be the nose tackle. Because if Cam is gone and they don't want to sign one of those old guys, you can always kick Keanu Benton out to that right end spot, which is where a lot of people are saying that he should be playing anyway, that he was out of position playing nose tackle, and they can go and find a true nose tackle, somebody like Andre Billings, who plays for Chicago Bears, who's a great run stuffer, but more importantly, he's that nose tackle who could play zero technique and could eat up blockers, and take on double teams that frees up linebackers to make plays. So those are some of the guys that I think that they should look at in free agency. We'll see, though. We'll see. I hope, they got $50 million. I hope they ain't going to sit on it. I hope they go to work. Go to work and start signing some of your own guys. Go to work and start signing some of the guys that are free. All right, moving right along. I'm going to move on to the draft. Now, here's what I did. There's a simulation system online called FanSpeak. And so I just used that to simulate the draft. The Steelers pick number 21 in the draft. And so what will happen is that the system would pick all the players around my pick. So they pick the first 21 players, and then they leave me 20 players, and they leave me a pool of players to pick from at 21, so forth and so on at each round. Okay, so with the first pick in 2026 NFL draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers selected number 21, Caden McDonald, defensive tackle from Ohio State. That's who I chose. We already. I'm assuming that we have signed a wide receiver in free agency or traded for one. And if that's the case, we spent, especially if we got my prize pick, which is Alec Pierce, and we spent $30 million, then there's no need to draft a wide receiver with the first pick in the draft. This draft is deep with wide receiver, and they can get a good one in the next couple of rounds. So I assumed that we had already got a wide receiver in free agency or trade, and so therefore I took the best player available, which is Caden McDonald. This dude is big. He is that nose tackle type. As a matter of fact, he's not just a nose tackle. He can play anywhere between 0 and 3 technique. So he's versatile. He's very versatile, which is a good thing, because you want him to be able to play nose tackle in base, but you also want him to be able to play that DT spot in nickel or dime. So he's 6'3", he's 326. Last year he had a really productive year, 68 tackles, 3 sacks, 8 tackles for losses. He plays the run really well. I had a chance to watch some of his highlights, man. This dude is big. He can move. I mean, maybe we need some help just growing as a pass rusher, but right now we can use him immediately in the middle of the line to help stop the run. So if Cam decides to move on, now you got Derek Harmon at left end and Dace. Derek Harmon at left hand. You got your first round draft pick, Kate McDonald at nose tackle, and Keanu Benton at right end. Man, that's a young a young defensive line that could wreak havoc. Y'all look him up, Caden McDonald, defensive lineman, Ohio State, is the very first pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21. All right, second pick. With the second round, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver from Indiana. Now, he is the relative of Amari Cooper, who used to play for the Raiders and the Browns and the Cowboys and the Bills. And Amari got around. Omar Cooper Jr. is 6'1". He's 204. At the combine, he ran a 4.42, and he's a slot guy. So if we get one of those wide receivers, we got DK, if we get Pierce or Jawan Jennings, the both of them can play outside. You need a slot guy, right? You need a slot guy. You still got Roman Wilson on the roster, but we don't know what he's gonna do. So go out and get Omar Cooper, who is a bona fide slot receiver. Excuse me. Last year, he had a really productive year for Indiana, 69 catches, 900 yards, but he had 13 touchdowns, y'all. He's a playmaker. He get the ball, he gets to the end zone. 13 touchdowns. He can play, and he can play outside, so he's versatile. And that's going to be important. Whoever they get, they draft or they sign for agency. Mike McCarthy said, I want a wide receiver who can play all the different positions. And Omar Cooper Jr. can do just that. So we get our wide receiver in the second round, and we get a good one. He could be a first-round pick, but in this mock simulation, he fell to us in the second round. Way to go. All right, third round. Now we got 3 third-round picks. The very first pick in the third round, the Steelers select Kylan Rutledge. He is a guard from Georgia Tech. Man, he immediately comes in, and he is challenging for that left guard spot with Spencer Anderson, because this dude is 6'4", he's 330, and he is a run-blocking mauler. I was watching the highlights of him. Man, that dude can pull. He's athletic. He can pull. And he mauls guys. And I mean, he was mauling dudes in the run blocking. Man, that dude is nice, man. He lasts to the third round. And if he lasts the third round in real life, they need to pick him up ASAP. Even if he gets to the second round, they need to get him and let him battle out for that left guard spot with Spencer Anderson. But here's the thing, though. I've seen him play both spots. He can play left and right. So, if Mason McCormick don't work out, and don't get me wrong, he's been all right, but he ain't been like great. Everybody, raving on him because, he started, but he ain't been great to where he can't be beat out. So, you bring Rutledge in, and he could be a better right guard than Mason McCormick, then that's where you put him at. But anyway, one stat that I read about him, and it just defines his pass blocking as well, because he's a good run blocker, but he's also good pass blocking. He only gave it 1 sack in the last 2 years. He had 600 plus snaps, and he only gave it 1 sack in the last 2 years. And so, he would be a good pickup with that first third round pick. Second third round pick, remember I told you, we got to get that corner room, just like we need the wide receiver room, where we had to sign a free agent and draft a guy. Say we signed, Rick Woolen, Eric Stokes, one of them corners. We also got to draft one too. And so with the second third round pick, we take Julian Neal, corner from Arkansas. He's another Joey Porter type dude, 6'2", 200 pounds. I wasn't impressed with his speed. He only ran a 4.5, but I think so did Porter. But he makes up for it with his physicality, but he's a press man corner. He got long arms, just like Joey Porter, tall, long arms. You see him, his highlights, you can see him using his long arms, to redirect guys, swat down passes, pass blocks and stuff like that. So he's probably still a little raw, but if he could sit behind, these guys for, especially if they sign Warren Woolen and they got Joey Porter, he sit behind them for a year or two, and eventually, get a place on the team. I mean, in the starting lineup or in special packages, nickel, dime, something like that. But we take him with the second, third round pick. And then with the third round pick, the last one, it's actually the 99th pick. It's the last pick in the third round. I go with a quarterback. Steelers select Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback from LSU, 6'1", 205. He was slated at the beginning of the year to be one of the top quarterbacks coming out the draft this year. He ended up getting hurt. He didn't play really well prior to that, but he did get hurt, and he was out for the rest of the year. But he did get healthy enough to come back for the end of the year. He was able to play in the Senior Bowl, and he played really well. I got a chance to watch the highlights. I had some family members who were telling me they watched it as well, and he played really well in the Senior Bowl. And then he did really well at the combine as well, moved well, threw the ball well. Now, the one thing that I looked at that I thought was helpful in choosing him was he is what they call an anticipation thrower. He anticipates routes, he's good at that. And you got to have that when you're playing in that West Coast offense. And Rodgers is perfect at that. He knows what routes to run. He knows what routes beat this, beat that. And he just has a great anticipation when he's getting ready to throw the ball. He's throwing it like he knows where that receiver is going to end up because he's anticipating, the routes. They say Nussmeier is that's one of his strengths. Plus, there's a tie to Mike McCarthy because his dad coached with Mike McCarthy. So you got those ties, So I just thought it would be a good pick for him to get him. They add him to the quarterback room, and then you let him and Will Howard battle it out in OTAs and mini camp, things like that. Let them battle it out and see who rises to the crop. Rises to the top of the cream of the crop. Rather, let them compete, and one of them will be the third quarterback this year because Mason's going to be the backup if Rodgers comes back. And then, you battle it out next year. Mason will be gone. Either one of those guys will be the starter or the Steelers will be drafted in the first round, a starter next year from the draft, and one of those guys will be the backup. So, again, can't lose with that. So that's the draft there. Again, first round, Caden McDonald. Second round, Omar Cooper Jr. Third round, Colin Rutledge, Julian Neal, and Garrett Nussmeier. All right, so that's my mock Steelers all season. Hopefully they make those moves or anything close to them, and it gets them to a Super Bowl. All right, y'all. I hope y'all had fun with this. Make sure you look at those names. Go back and research some of the stuff. Google them, YouTube them. Look at some of them draft picks so you can see the same things I'm seeing. We can get these guys, man. We can get some of these guys. Even get a couple of them. I would love to get that first round pick, K. McDonald. If we can get him and that left guard, and our trenches would improve. So, all right. So that's all I got for y'all tonight. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. And it was, it's a fun thing to do. Like I said, I always enjoy team building. But listen, we'll be back next month for the draft. The draft is right here in the Bird. It's going to be right here in Pittsburgh, April 23rd, April 24th, April 25th. And then we're going to do some special stuff for the draft. I'm going to be down there every day, and I'm going to be doing some videos, some interviews, and I'll be shooting them to y'all on Facebook or on the YouTube page. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you also subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't done so. Please do that. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We got a lot of people liking our Facebook page, but ain't nobody over on YouTube. But if you could do that, we would greatly appreciate it. That way we can, be able to do some more stuff going live and things like that. But listen, if y'all gonna be here for the draft, anybody who's gonna be here, gonna be down there, hit me up. Hit me up in my DMs or send me a message on X or on Facebook. Those are two main social media platforms I'm on. If you let me know you're gonna be down there, maybe we can connect. I can get you on a video or interview, something like that, so we can get you on the Huddle Up with John, Talking Steelers Football podcast show. All right, y'all. Hope y'all have a great rest of y'all evening, and we'll see you next month for the draft. All right. Go Steelers. Peace.